Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Knowledge 24. In our previous lecture, we discussed about the topic constructor. Now, in this lecture, we will see types of constructor. So, basically, we have three types of constructor. The first is default constructor, parameterized constructor, then next is copy constructor. So, let's start with the first one, default constructor. So, default constructor means it takes no argument. Means when we define the constructor, then we will not pass any number of argument. And basically, default constructor is used to assign the initial values to the data members of the object. For example, suppose create a class con. In this, we will declare A and B as a private variables, and in public section we will write the definition of con constructor. So name is same, it means this is the constructor, and when we pass no argument in this parameter list, then this is the default constructor. Now in this definition we will assign the initial values a equal to 0 and b equal to 2 suppose. So this is the definition of default constructor. Now in main function, when we create the object of the class, so con C. Now C is the object. So when the object is created, the compiler will automatically call the default constructor without any writing like calling the function etc. and assign the values a equal to 0 and b equal to 2 to the variables a and b. Remember that when we will not define any default constructor, then the compiler will automatically generate the constructor, default constructor, without providing any initial values when the object is created. So default constructor is used to assign initial values to all the objects. Now suppose we want to assign different values to the different objects, then what to do? For this we will use parameterized constructor. So parameterized constructor is used to take arguments, and it is used when we assign different values to the data members of the different objects. So for this we will use parameterized constructor. Now for example, we have a class con, and in this class same we will write a and b as private variables, and in public section we will use constructor. Now in this we will pass the parameters, then it will become a parameterized constructor. So suppose I am passing int m and int n. Now the value of m will pass into a and n value will be passed in a b. So this is the parameterized constructor. Now the change will there. In main function, suppose we are creating the object C. Now in default constructor we know that when we create the object, then compiler will call the default constructor, but this time the parameterized constructor will not be called because we have to pass the initial values to the constructor. Here we are passing two arguments, so we have to pass the values in the constructor function. We can pass the values as two ways. The first one is explicitly, and then second is implicitly. How? Let's see. So for explicitly we will write the class name con, then the object C, then equal to, then the constructor name con, and then we will pass the two values for m and n. So suppose we are passing 10 and 20. So now at that time it will call the parameterized constructor explicitly. Now suppose we have to pass the values as implicitly, then what to do? So for this we will write class name, then object name, and then we will pass the values as 10 or 20 suppose. So it will execute as implicitly and it will call the parameterized constructor for m equal to 10 and n equal to 20. So there are two ways to calling the parameterized constructor. The first one is explicitly and second one is implicitly, and this is also called shorthand function, means because in this we are directly call the function. So this is the implicitly calling the parameterized constructor. Now two things more in parameterized constructor, that parameterized constructor can be a inline function, and then second is parameterized constructor. In this we can pass any type of parameter instead of the class type, means we can pass all the primitive type like integer, float, etc. but we cannot pass the variable as a class type like con. So these are the two main rules for the parameterized constructor. Now the third is copy constructor, which will be discussed in the next lecture. Thank you.